Welcome to the Intentional CEO Conversation, a space designed for founders who are ready to lead with clarity, make smarter decisions, and scale without chaos. We are here to talk about what it really takes to grow a service based business with systems, structures, and leadership that protect your time and your peace. Today, I have Carla Dancy Smith, CEO of it's Carla Smith LLC, correct?
Dancy
Joining
Smith
me
LLC.
yeah, to talk about her business and how we can really support those that are in which we call that sandwich generation. Carla, thank you for joining me. And I would love for you to share more about your business, who you serve, and why.
Thank you, Karen, for this opportunity. I appreciate being here today. Hello to everyone who's joining us live or watching us on the replay. And I am excited about my business. This is my first few months in business full time. I have been part time for many months prior. My focus is to serve family caregivers, and I am a certified coach. I am bringing my skills from corporate America to the family caregiver. There are about 63 million family caregivers now in the US. I know you're one, I'm one. There's a lot out there, and we're struggling sometimes in silence. So that's who I'm serving in my business.
And I love it that you start off by talking about, yes, we are those that are caregivers. And just to be even more specific, caregiving just isn't for talking about, the children, but it's also includes our parents. And so, can you share what you've learned on your journey so far about being in that middle with the children and the parents?
Sure, sure. So, the biggest thing I've learned is sometimes this new responsibility of caregiving is unexpected. We have a book when we're at mothers called What to Expect When You're Expecting.
Mhm.
I wish there was a similar book about when you're taking on a caregiving role. So for my situation, it was 3 years ago. My parents lived in Connecticut with my brother, and my brother and his wife decided we're moving to Texas. And they gave me notice. And my parents had been living with him. And I'm the oldest, I'm the only girl, and it was my turn. So I didn't plan for this phase of my life, but I do honor my family. I come from a Christian background. So I said, yeah, I will take on this responsibility. And I relocated my parents from Connecticut to be with me. For others that I talk to, similar in, this time of our season of our life, the trend tends to be we didn't plan it, we didn't see it, but yes, when our family members need us, whether it's an elderly aunt, a grandmother, sometimes it's even a sibling, we step up, we do what's necessary to accommodate that person. So in my situation, I moved my parents actually into my home. I have a lower level. It was equipped with enough accommodations for them. I did have to do some what I'll call safety precautions, putting in extra rails and things. So when you take on this responsibility, it comes with a to-do list that you may not have
Mhm.
expected. That's
Mhm.
really the biggest thing I learned. And
Mhm.
so to-do lists are my friends. I talked to other people that had already done this work before me, been down the path, to say, what did you learn? What should I do? And I just made that list and kind of punched it out.
I love that. Um, Interesting because kind of transitioned to planning for my parents when my grandmother got sick.
Mhm.
And so for me, it was one, and I want to say, I think it was a little before that because I had decided that I knew that it costs to take care of my parents. And so I sat with them and I helped them to create a plan. And some may think this is crazy, but I did that around like 25, 26. Did they really take me serious at first? Absolutely not. Um, but it helped me to have those kind of hard conversations because it was hard because I knew that as a single person, and I loved my siblings dearly, but I knew that they weren't going to be or step up to be able to be that person for my parents. And like you, I was brought up, you know, in the church. So I knew that you honor your mother and father. And so that's really how I lived with my parents. And so I just always, as I learned things, I shared it with them. And so mine was, I really was about the financial part. And
Mhm.
so I work with them to use strategies. My mother worked for a law firm. So I helped her to be able to set money aside while being able to take advantage of the match contributions that her employer was providing, as well as to max out their annual employer contribution that they would put in. And so we had that strategy until she retired at 65. And so we really honed in on that. My dad, on the other hand, was a little more stubborn about it, but we were able to manage with some other strategies with him. But it really was, like you said, it's that planning part. But that's the one thing that I planned up front because I just saw what my mom, my uncles, and my aunt had to go through with their mom. And it was like, so what can I do today to be able to relieve that stress for me later? And that was the one thing I knew for me up front was the money, which was the strategy that hit me first. Um, the other things, because I worked in health insurance, that part was easy because I already knew how to navigate with advocates and the different things. I had to support some of the members in the different funds that I was overseeing. And so I knew like what to do in Virginia, what to do in Maryland. And so there were things that I learned in my career along the way, how to support them in that. But it was just, it's work. It's really, really work. And like you said, that planning is so important. And in that planning, what did you find was the hardest thing to do as you were planning?
So I think there's 2 ways to plan,
Mhm,
proactive and reactive. Yours sounds
mhm,
like it was very proactive. Again, in
mhm,
my situation, it was a little bit reactive. My parents were entrepreneurs also, it runs in our
mhm,
family, and they had
mhm.
their own business, and they actually wanted to run their business till they died. I mean, that was their plan,
Mhm.
and I literally had to shut their business down, write the letters
Wow.
myself to their clients and say, "We're shutting this down." They were housing managers.
Mhm.
And I remember sending the letters, mailing them certified to make sure their clients understood we're shutting down. And then I come to find out my parents said, "Yeah, but we'll wait till you," they told their clients behind my back, we'll help you find a replacement. So kind of, extending it even further. So again, whether you're proactive or reactive,
Mhm.
you got to have a plan.
Mhm.
But once we got all on the same page, and I went to Connecticut where my parents lived, and I went to each doctor appointment. So
Mhm.
the health piece, I think, is, for me, critical.
Yes.
You went with
Mhm.
financial, I went with health, and I went to the cardiologist. I went to each appointment. I made sure all of the records were forwarded and that I could set up specialists here in the Maryland area for
Mhm.
them. So that was a huge part of the plan, making sure that they had the healthcare here that they were accustomed to having there. I would say also part of the transition was making sure they had their things that they were accustomed to so that
Yes.
it wouldn't be too big of a shock. Now, I will say a mistake I made because it's all not just roses when you're making these
Mhm,
transitions.
mhm.
I rented a storage unit. I actually moved some of their things and put it in a storage unit. And if we were to do a poll right now to say how many people have a storage unit that you're paying for, you don't know what's in it, you've had it for a long time, my recommendation is don't do it. Don't get the storage area. Do not pay for things in storage that you really don't need. But I did bring some of their things from Connecticut here and had in storage for a period of time. But I wanted them to be comfortable. And again, having the physical things, their memories, their pictures, things like that, I wanted to ensure they had them with them.
I love that, and it's interesting. I didn't have the issue with the storage, but one of the challenges was about the protectiveness of their things.
Mhm.
And you probably were with that, like what could stay, what could go.
Yeah.
And even as, things progress, we're still playing that dance.
Yes.
And so, and I'll share a story. This happened over the summer, was that we were helping her to clean because she had a lot of stuff. And so we were helping her to declutter. And so my nieces had made some executive decisions on some things, and it didn't go so well. And so it caused a big stink for about a couple of weeks where she was really hurt because she was like, you should have asked. Now, some things we were not going to bend on. Like she had some things that were too old that, like, canned goods and things. It was like, you don't need this. And since my mom grew up in that depression era, so that like
It's
giving
hard.
things were, yeah, they're like, nope, no way, not doing it. And so that was something that was really, really hard. So we've learned now over time, how do we be respectful of her, but at the same time, help her to see that some of the things that she's holding on to isn't beneficial. And I know that one of the things she was like, oh, well, you guys can, I'm leaving everything to you. And the girls had to have that hard, loving conversations. We don't want any of it. And that, but again, I appreciated their honesty with her,
Mhm.
and it took her a minute to understand. It was like, it's precious to you, but it doesn't mean that it has the same value to them. And so we had to have those conversations. And I don't know if you've had to have those with, everybody as well.
We had those conversations, and also when we moved my parents from Connecticut, we actually made sure every family member was able to get something to hold on to at that time. That
Mhm,
those things never made it to storage, and
mhm,
I had the benefit of living overseas for 3 years during my early career, so a lot
mhm,
of the nicer things my parents had, I actually had given to them, things I bought overseas, and so I took those things back. Those were kind of the things I did wanna hold on to, but
mhm,
having agreements, having those conversations, as you just mentioned, having some kinda guiding principles that help you get unstuck, whether it's with children or with siblings, or even extended family members. Sometimes you have extended family members that have always had their eye on that picture or that vase. Just making sure you're able to honor, in my case, my parents, their wishes, as well as making sure that family members were able to have a memory now versus when they're gone, if that was okay. So we negotiated through all that. I would say, as you were talking about the difficult conversations and your mother, kind of being a little bit on edge about some decisions being made. That whole decision making process is
mhm.
huge, and
Yes.
allowing them to have their freedom and autonomy and just privacy in as much as possible. All of those values are really important to our elders. And so we try to honor them. Sometimes we could steer a conversation to the decision we wanted, but at the same time, give the appearance and the atmosphere, create the atmosphere and the space to where they really did think they were making the decision, but they were actually making the decision that was best, that we were kind of guiding them in a direction. So all of those, I think, are skills, my coaching skills, that's where they come in, as well as being able to be diplomatic.
Mhm. I love that. And for anyone that's listening, what would be the I know you talked about the point of like the transition, the move, making sure that they feel like, they're in control. Um, what are maybe one or two other things that they need to consider when they're going to become a caregiver? What are maybe two things besides getting a checklist, but what else should they be looking at in that situation?
Great question, Karen. I would say number one is asking for support. I was working full time and I needed to let my employer know this is what I'm going through. At that time, I was not yet a founder. And so balancing the full time work and having to take the time off to spend with my family to make the relocation moves that needed to be had, that was important. Now, as a entrepreneur, I have to make those time away decisions and negotiations with my clients, even in this environment. So whether you're on your own or with an employer, you have to take into consideration your clients and creating the space, asking for help, being transparent about what's going on. I think in our society today, just like people are a little bit more aware and sensitive to mental health issues, I also think there's an increasing awareness about elder care issues, about the sandwich generation and the challenges we're having. Whether, again, as you mentioned, whether it's children at home or elder parents, we have these other responsibilities. We're multidimensional individuals. So being able to ask for help would be the first thing. The second thing I think is giving ourselves grace.
Mm.
I cannot tell you how many times I did feel guilty. Am I doing it enough? Am I helping everybody enough? Am I doing all the things on the checklist? Am I honoring my parents' wishes? I second guess myself sometimes. And the thing that I had to always come back to was intention. What was my intent? Where was my heart? And just give myself grace throughout the process. And so that's what I would offer to other family caregivers, that you're balancing this load, this family, this work, whatever that work might be. But you have to give yourself grace in that process. And I'll just tag on another thing is you're giving that grace, it is to rest, to take care of yourself so that you can take care of others. So I selected this picture today in my background because it's part of my message that I do wish to sit by the pool, sit at the beach, go to have a massage, do the things that refresh and renew my energy. That's what I would say to other caregivers so that we can give and pour into other people.
I love that. I know for me, just to share, is that I um, created, and again, as my mother's journey changes, so does our plans.
Yes.
And um, so that as for me, I'm the only living child. So for me, a lot of the navigation is for me. But the thing that I love so much is that my nieces and my nephews have really stepped up to be the support system that I need, right? They have their families, they have their lives, but
Yes.
the ones that are local are committed to giving time each week to be there with her or to do things for her. And so it makes it so that even though I'm there, during the day, I have, support at night. I have support on those days when I need to do other things, that support is available to me. And so it has definitely made this journey so much um, not lighter, but it helps me to manage myself. And I also include in my own, as you said, that self care part. And I think I see that in um, people that I talk to, they forget that key part because if your cup is empty, how can you really serve your
No,
loved ones?
you can't.
So for me, that's a really big um, part of where I really show up for my mother because I just can't see her suffer.
I appreciate that. I think that's one of the reasons we're in each other's circle is I see you doing the work and I see how you're balancing things. And I think that's the other key that I would offer to other caregivers is to surround yourselves with community, people who may be going through this same journey, whether it's joining groups or reaching out and looking for some of the resources that are available from associations. Just having that community and support is critical during this difficult time so that people see you, they know you, they understand what you're going through. Um, I just think that's part of the experience.
I love that. So, Carla, can you share with everyone what it is that you are offering at this time for them to be able to have the support that they need? Um, if they currently are a caregiver, believe that they're about to start, what support can you provide to them at this time?
Sure. So, based on my lived experience, as well as the corporate tools, techniques, strategies that I used to use with the leaders that I worked with within the organization, right now I'm offering coaching. And that really is a partnership. It's a place to have a conversation. And oftentimes, people just need someone to listen and help them uncover the answers. The answers are within us. Sometimes we know, oh, this is the direction I want to go, but you need that validation, you need that awareness. And that's what I see coaching as being. Usually, when I'm coaching people, it's those that are in a place of stress, overwhelm, confusion, not knowing what to do next. So, being that coach who can listen and help an individual come up with what's that one next first step. We're not going to solve, world hunger in this coaching conversation, but what would be the steps that you could take to move from this overwhelmed, stressed out position that we often find ourselves in as caregivers to being more balanced, to being more at peace while you're on this caregiver journey. And usually, this conversation it is a transformation. It's a learning. I benefited from coaching, which is what made me make the decision to be a coach. And in the past, I was a coach to executives. And usually, you think about coaching as helping people move up the career ladder. But in the situation I'm in now, I'm just helping caregivers move through the path, the journey of being a caregiver, and finding resources if that is what's needed. Um, the other thing I'm working with in that coaching is usually one-on-one, but the other thing I find is needed is coaching for families, peers,
Mhm.
cousins, nieces, nephews, whoever that caregiving team is. Oftentimes they need to come together to really act as a team, a high performing team. And just like I worked with teams in corporations to be high performing, to make sure you had processes, that you had roles, responsibilities, you have your emergency contact list, you know what to do in an emergency situation. All of those same types of plans need to be in place for families. So I coach one on one, but I also coach groups, families that need to have some synergy working. I like to use the word mojo.
Okay.
Sometimes when we go into this work and we've never done it before, and we know we were good over here, but now we have this new problem situation. It's like, oh, I think I lost my mojo. I don't know how to do this. So, as a coach, I'm here to help people find that mojo, figure it out. How are you going to get it done? And that's what I enjoy.
I love that. So, how can they get in contact with you?
So, I do have a assessment. In fact, I would invite everyone to take on my website. It is my name, carladancysmith.com. And there's an assessment there that helps one to kind of see how out of balance am I? How stressed am I? How am I doing right now today? Kind of current state on this caregiver journey. And once you complete that assessment, you will get the report, the results, and also a link to set an appointment to have an initial discovery call. Sometimes we call it, but really I like to call it just a meet and greet, where we sit down and talk about your results of your assessment and see again what is that one first step, but then also consider should we work together on a longer term basis to help you in that journey. But I would invite everyone to reach out on my website, but also in the comments, I will put the link to the website as well as the assessment.
Oh, thank you so much. I definitely appreciate that. And I would also like to just invite that if you are someone who would like to be on the intentional CEO conversation, to invite you to join us in these types of conversations, because I think they're so meaningful to be able to have people um, get to know you and to understand how you serve. And so I would love to be able to do that. You can definitely, and I will put the link to the website to or the link to the form to sign up. And I just want to say thank you, Carla, for having this encouraging conversation to be able to share with people what you're doing and how you're showing up to serve those and for you, it can be nationwide because it necessarily doesn't have to be right here in DC, Maryland, or Virginia. And so if you see that you need her services, please reach out. She is definitely someone who has so much knowledge in this arena. And I know that she's given me some great advice and tips to be able to show up for my mother in the best way possible, because this is a journey for us that is a transition. And so, every day is a new day. And so for me, I'm just grateful that I have someone in my community, in my network, in my tribe that definitely is a resource that I could use um, and to get that service from. And so, Carla, last parting words.
Thank you, Karen, for the support. I think it is very necessary that we reach out and help each other. This is not a solo act right now. It is very much a community that I appreciate that we have together. And I
Mhm.
just invite others to join us in the conversation, whether it's joining you as an intentional CEO conversation or reaching out to me for further conversation about what is coaching. Coaching is a gift, let me say that. And it's something you deserve. So I just would encourage you to explore it. Thank you.
All right. Okay, until next time, again, have an amazing day. And again, we're here. Come talk to us.
Thank you.
Thanks.